something. So if I do any mistake, please, I apologize from now on. And now we will do our first round table. So as you see, we have really many guests, many special people who will talk with you about many different issues. I want to give the speech floor to our chair, Dr. Hakan Ercan. He's from Aga University, from Department of Economics, and he will introduce you all our other speakers.
Thank you. Middle East Technical University and Abdullah Gül. I was Rector's Advisor here for some years now. We'll be talking about the issues that are related to the general theme of this conference. Abdurrahman will start with education and labor market transition. It will be a general overlook of what we'll be talking about. Then Canan Ercan will be talking about their current recruitment strategies in Borusan. What kind of people are they looking for hiring? Then we will move on to, not Yasemin, to was? Well, Yasemin is okay. Yasemin will be talking about Bilkent. As a student, the kind of opportunity that's available to you to find a job at Borusan, for example, your summer internships and other employment-related aspects of things that will secure you a job while you're still a student, so that's very useful. The most specific presentation will be Vasco. He will be talking about what it takes to be a data scientist, and maybe we will have another speaker from UNICEF, but I think they're still arranging that position. Therefore, let's start with Abdurrahman. He'll be talking about labor market education transitions in Turkey, the kind of skill mismatch issue in general. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. First of all, let me thank Abdullah Gül University for this kind invitation. It's a pleasure being here. I'm going to make some remarks about the Turkish case, and I will try to also refer to the more general issue about youth unemployment. And I will try to make a couple of points about this. First of all, as of February 2016, the youth unemployment rate in Turkey was about 18.6%. It's a little higher among females, about 20.7%, and a little lower among males, about 17%. Maybe I should caution that the rate for females may be a bit misleading because the participation rate of females in Turkey is very low. So if a higher fraction of females were to participate, similar to, let's say, other European countries, maybe we would have a different rate. And from a more historical perspective, unfortunately, there has been some rise in the youth unemployment in Turkey. In 2011, we were standing at about 17%. Now we are close to 19%. So there has been a lot of initiatives, there has been a lot of things done in Turkey to fight unemployment. Probably they made a difference, but still, we couldn't go back to where we were in 2011. And to put Turkey into a more international context where we stand, with 19% youth unemployment rate, we are just below EU, where the average is about 20%. We are very close to, let's say, Sweden, which is about 20%. So we are right in the middle. There are countries where the youth unemployment rate is much higher, like Spain, closer to, let's say, 40%. But there are countries at the other end of this distribution where it is as low as 5%. So we have a lot of things to do in Turkey to combat this issue. These levels are quite important. Of course, they say something to us, the levels, but maybe even more important than these levels is the duration of unemployment. If a lot of people, one aspect of the Turkish labor market is a lot of young individuals are coming into the labor force every year, and some of them may be becoming unemployed for a short period of time, and then if they are getting their jobs eventually, then that's not a very big issue. But if they are long-term unemployed, then that's going to be a significant issue for us. Unfortunately, I don't have any figures about the duration of unemployment for the youth specifically, but if we look at individuals that are 15 plus in Turkey, about 66% of them are unemployed at most 5 months. But there are also individuals that are unemployed for more than a year, and that's close to 20%. And that is the group that we are most concerned with. And this gets to the issue of what we call the scarring effect of being unemployed. If you come into the labor force, and if you are unemployed for a long period of time, then your skills become depreciated. It starts to depreciate as a result of this, and this may have a very significant influence on your future employability. So this is the group that we really need to focus on. And there has been, as I mentioned, there has been a number of things that Turkey were trying to combat unemployment. Interestingly, I mean, this is not. This issue is quite general. It's not an issue about Turkey. In the morning, we had a speaker who talked about this. Our actually the director about this employability office at Oxford University. There are issues about employability of university graduates, but that problem or that issue is much smaller than if you look at individuals with lower levels of education. That is, youth unemployment tends to be higher for lower skilled individuals that has high school education or below level of education, and this. And if you want to address this issue, if you want to solve this problem, we really need to focus on the relevance of the skills that are taught at schools. One, I think, very interesting observation about Turkey is, in 1997, we had the compulsory schooling reform, which increased years of schooling from 5 to 8. Later, this has been extended to 12 years. So what we did in that context, we forced students to remain in school for 3 extra years. And we recently conducted a study trying to understand what was the return of these extra years of schooling in the labor market for Turkish people. And, the general consensus, if you look at what is the return to an extra year of schooling in the world, it would say it is about 10%. But that general consensus has started to change a bit. And in particular for the Turkish case, for example, for males, what we found was the return for an extra year of schooling for males was close to 0. And this is related to the relevance of the skills that we teach to these kids. They are not taught any vocational skills, they are just taught general skills, and those general skills are aiming to prepare these students to go to the high school, and so they are relevant for success in high school, they are relevant for success at university entrance exams, but they don't seem to be very relevant for the labor market. And if you think that maybe this is something very specific to the Turkish case, it is not. There is a recent study in Germany, and the title of that study is "Zero Returns to Schooling in Germany." So they find that if you increase the years of schooling in Germany at lower grade levels, they are using some historical changes, that doesn't have a significant return. So these types of findings are increasing, and this is very much related to what we teach to students. Are these skills relevant for the labor market? And with this understanding, I'm coming to my last point. There was a very big push in the OECD towards increasing vocational training. This was referred to in the morning. And there was a very big increase in Turkey in terms of the fraction of students that go into general type of training versus vocational training. I think at the moment, if you look at students at the high school level, about 50% are now in the vocational schools, 50% in general type of high schools. This was the fraction of vocational school students were much lower in the past. So this is a good thing. You know, they are learning some skills that are really relevant for labor market. Not all of them are going to make it to the university, so it's better if they learn something that is going to help them to become employable. But having said that, I think what we need to be concerned about is how does this type of vocational training relate to the long-term economic growth scenarios of Turkey or of the countries in general. You know, you can extend the number of spaces in vocational schools by quite a bit, but are they going to be employable at the end? Because there will be many of them, and not all of the vocational training may be very relevant. They may not have very high prospects. I think that is something that we need to think very carefully about. Our keynote speaker was talking about strategies. I think we need to make these educational policy changes linked very closely to the long-term strategies in which areas the country, you know, aims to go forward or increase its capacity, and are these skills going to be the ones that are going to be demanded not next year, not 5 years from now, maybe 20 years from now. I think that's a big challenge in terms of ensuring the future employability of youth and of the population in general. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abdurrahman. We'll take the questions after every presentation, and they'll be directed to specific speakers. But the point that he's made, and the point that our keynote speaker this morning has made, so there is some mismatch and how to go around this, and it seems it's not possible without a strategy in place for that. Now, in the second, from macro to more micro events, to my right is a member of the board of the Borusan Holding Company, Canan Ercan Çelik, and she'll be talking about what it takes to be employed at Borusan. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, I'm a graduate of Middle East Technical University almost 30 years ago, but luckily I have a daughter who is about to graduate this year, and lucky to involve in management training programs for my group since 1991. And I hope I can have some fruitful statements and advices for you for future. Let me explain what is Borusan Group is doing in order to give an insight for the prospective businesses. Our turnover is around $4.5 billion, and primarily the industrial operations are in the steel industry. We are producing steel pipes and flat steels. Mainly B2B type of businesses that we are serving to high-end industries like automotive appliance and some construction materials for Turkish companies who are also primarily exporting their products. And also on the service side and the distributorship side, we are representing premium brands like BMW, Land Rover, and Caterpillar. Caterpillar business is also standing for international distributorships. So we are not representing this brand in Turkey only, but also in Central Asia and Far East Russia type of different markets. And after having our investments in US and Italy in the steel industry, the business is getting much more global in the last decade, and there are about 7,000 employees for the group, 2,500 blue collars, the rest is white collars. Unfortunately, the recruitment of women is just in line with Turkey's statistics, 15% of the total population. Although in holding and in automotive industry, it's much more. in the businesses like steel, logistics, relatively male-dominated businesses, women recruitment ratios are very low. In this respect, we were believing in creating our own culture and creating our own, doing our own way of business by the people who embedded our values since their young ages. We invested in management trainee programs so long, but the nature of the programs has changed, and also the number of graduates that we are recruiting is changing according to the environmental and economical circumstances each year. It's for sure that nowadays the growth rates are moderate and low, and our product ranges are being aged, so the opportunities for the new graduates are becoming less and more competitive. Beforehand, being a graduate of a good school, having some remarkable trainings and involving in certain networks would be very good credits. They are always good credits. But at present, you can find enormous number of candidates having these features around and competing in a very tailored, customized way to get the prospective jobs. Let me give some statistics about our this current year's recruitment process to you. We had road shows in 12 different universities and make some presentations, who we are, what we are doing, and what type of jobs we are offering. And then had 3,500 face-to-face interviews with students who have interest in our business. And on the online platforms, we had 500,000 leads and questions about our current year recruitment process. At the end of the day, we end up with almost 15,000 applications, out of which we invite 1,200 for a test. Unfortunately, there is an election mechanism in that sense. And after that test, we asked 600 candidates to provide a video for us. And after that process, we have an English test for 300. And at the end of the day, we come up with 85 candidates for the assessment center in order to recruit only 15 new graduates. And this is Borisan's statistics, but I know that most of the statistics are like this in the companies like us. So we are always discussing, so what would be the case? And because our opportunities, the new graduates are being recruited for future growth. When the future growth is relatively stable, and when you don't see the room for new businesses, that for a significant growth prospect, the need for the graduates is becoming less and less. But what is changing, and what seems to be an opportunity is also, as our keynote speaker also mentioned, that the self-employment rate and the entrepreneurs are increasing in number. We are also looking for social entrepreneurs in our group, because we know that in each and every business unit we are working in, the core businesses are much more stabilized, and we are looking for new ideas, innovative projects, some incubation entities, in order to develop, in order to make sure a future growth prospect to sustain our business success. And this corporate entrepreneurship is a skill set that we don't have at all. So we are about to transform ourselves also, to adapt ourselves to the new dynamics, to the new communication platforms, to the new marketing platforms, and in order to understand even the market insights where we don't know which the market is. And in this respect, there are always opportunities, and sometimes people create their own opportunities, and new graduates or young people remind us and bring us some opportunities that we are not aware, but we are willing to have in our business environment in order to develop certain ideas together with them. Maybe I can stop at this point.
Thank you, Canan. I didn't realize that in major holding companies in Turkey, well, let's say, I'm not putting the rest down, but basically the good ones who are going through this such a streamlined process, and I wasn't definitely aware of the numbers. Maybe many young future colleagues of mine didn't realize this procedure either. How would you think that you would find a job? It seems it is basically by itself a business. And maybe you should be thinking about what you should be saying about your own video that you will be uploading to YouTube in your job search. Never thought it would come to this, but it did. And somebody is employing these techniques. I'm impressed. Now, at a more smaller, well, not smaller. Now that we know what's going on in the world about the transition probabilities from education to labor market, now that we know a major holding company in Turkey, the hiring process of it, Yasemin will basically inform us about, while you're still students, what options are available to you and what can you do. Yasemin?
Thank you. I am very glad to be here with you. Thank you to all organizers for their kind invitation. Yes, true, it is very difficult to find a job for new talent, young people. They find job with very low salaries, or they can't find job. Also, even for the unskilled jobs, competition is much more and getting more and more. Today, there are a lot of universities, and a lot of people graduate from these universities every year. After graduating from the university, the skills and the qualifications of these students, the graduates, don't match with the market demand. So there's a big problem about this. I think internship programs are very important in this area. Also, the period is these programs, the internship is important. Government should provide incentives in this area, maybe. We have some interns from our university, from the other universities, and also from the foreign countries for the summertime. Internship experience is important for a new graduate because he really knows about the professional life in that period. Businesses, governments, non-profits, educational institutes should collaborate. Only one of them cannot solve this problem. Collaboration is must. For example, there can be an obligation to have new graduate people in the organization up to the organization's employee number. Maybe if you have 500 employee number, you can hire 2. This can be a way, alternative. Another can be the companies can hire people when they start a new project. You know, in my previous experiences, I was working in a construction sector company, and we were building a lot of projects in other countries. And when we started a new project, we hired new graduates. It was really useful for our company and for the youth people. maybe there can be obligation like that from the government. Also, the company courses is very important. Last year, we gave an advertisement and we selected 15 people. We gave some courses. They get also they got certification from this program. At the end of this program, at the end of this training program, we recruited maybe one, but the other 14 learned a lot of things from this experience.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Entrepreneurship incentives should be supported. It's important. It's another way to reduce the youth employment. Nowadays, we know that on social media, the young people, number of young people working are more than the other age group. So, technology, transportation, communication, social media, these are the fast areas. And we know that young people are fast. So maybe there can be some projects in these ways. Also, I want to say that there are some advantages for young people now, like Erasmus exchange programs. When I was in university, I wanted to attend a certification program in a foreign country, and I looked a lot of programs. Then I decided one, but I paid a lot of money, really paid a lot. My parents said, okay, we're paying, but we are waiting you be successful in a business life. And in these years, my friends were shocked. You are going and you paid a lot of money. Today, there's no need to pay a lot of money. One of my cousins went to Germany last year. The other one is going to Spain this year. So there is such kind of alternatives. It is important about what you learn about your educational life. It is important to improve the skills when you are a student, because life really starts with difficulties when you graduate. But please supply such kind of alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Asem, short and sweet. Before I move on to Vasco, I would like to ask, is Musa still here? Musa? Is he gone? We would have another speaker. Okay, he will have a session in the one of the plenary panels, a very important subject along the lines of today's presentations. So I advise you not to miss that young researcher and his colleague. Now Vasco will become, we will become very specific. It is one of those so-called trending topics. A data scientist, I hope that you will also be describing what a data scientist is, because many people basically recognize these data scientists, so-called data scientists, as statisticians, which they are, but they aren't either. If there are 10 or 11, I don't know, attributes that will make a data scientist, 3 or 4 may be related to data statistics. They are not econometricians either. So we're kind of curious about who are they, and Vasco will tell us. Thank you.
I will actually be talking about gaps. About gaps between employers and job seekers, and gaps between what they are looking for and also what universities are offering. But before I go into the data, and I will try to do it a bit quickly. I'm working at Universum, and shortly Universum works with connecting employers with talent. Basically, we help them become more attractive, and we help them become more attractive by understanding talent. What is it that talent wants? I'm not going to dwell into this. Arda, my colleague, is going to have a presentation later on today, and if you want to find out more about what Universum exactly does, you can drop by and you can hear about trends. What is it that that young people are now looking for in an employer, and what are employers doing in order to attract these people? This slide is nothing new. This is actually not global data. This is OECD data, but it pretty much shows you an unemployment trend. Basically, an employment rate starting to grow in 2008, 2009. You have the crisis. The slide looks a little bit different if you look into European data or even other region data. But what is interesting to see, and I don't know now if I have a button. Yeah. What is interesting to see is that this increase in unemployment goes in the opposite direction of what employers are reporting regarding hiring difficulties. So basically, from the year 2008-9, we start seeing that the employers, in a survey actually done by Manpower, that employers start reporting higher hiring difficulties with an increase in employment, and this doesn't make any sense, does it? I mean, we know many things. We know many things that there is lately, or in the past decades, there has been an academic inflation. So basically, for a job that you didn't need a bachelor degree, now you need a bachelor degree. Take a sales jobs, for example. You didn't need a bachelor degree to work in an insurance company selling insurance. Now, soon you are going to need a master degree, and soon you are going to need a PhD for the same job that decades ago you didn't need. So you do have a problem of academic inflation, among other things. So the question being, what is it that the employers are actually looking for? Okay, if we ask exactly the same question to CEOs with respect to the availability of key skills from talent, they have a growing concern about these lacking skills, that they cannot find the right people. And there is, I don't know if you're aware, there is this extremely beautiful study that has a bit of mathematics behind, that shows that if we were to promote people randomly, managers randomly, you would get better managers than we currently have. So you do have a massive problem on if employers exactly know what they are looking for in talent. Okay. I have an example from a project that I personally did in a university in South Africa. That was aiming at measure employability in their alumni. So basically, 6 months after they graduated, we tracked: are they working? Do they have a full-time job? Do they have a part-time job? Are they back at university? And also, we tracked. I'm not going to go into that, but we tracked what is it that they are studying if they are back at university, and why didn't they get a job. But just to give you, because this presentation is about gaps, just to give you a perspective, this is a graphic showing you the percentage. Just look at the top one. The percentage of alumni from this university that found the job 6 months after, found a full-time employment 6 months after they finished their studies. And interesting enough, you see that there is a small gap between female and male. And keep in mind that these are students that studied exactly the same degrees, exactly the same universities. Okay? Or exactly the same faculties within the university. But more interesting is, and this is, as you all know, this is a big question, a big issue in South Africa. This is extremely interesting, extremely problematic, that African people in South Africa studying exactly the same degree, taking the same grades, in the same faculties, they have a much harder time finding employment. In the beginning of the 20th century, there was something that orchestras did that goes a bit hand in hand with this, and it's almost a suggestion of a solution for this problem, which was they start having they start having their trials or their tests, basically their job interviews, where people would go there and play different songs to be able to get into these symphonic orchestras, and they start doing it on the blind. So basically, you are not the people recruiting; they were not able to see if it was a male or a female, old or young. And what happened? I don't know if you know what happened, but there was a massive increase on the amount of women in orchestras, and basically what in fact happens is that there is an increase in quality, because you are actually just recruiting for the skills needed. How good are you playing this instrument? And this is a little bit about what's going on here. However, this is not a problem that we are trying to solve, and we now have a European. I'm involved in a European project with some Turkish entities and a couple of European partners on not trying to change the recruitment industry. Unfortunately, there is a lot of work there, but rather trying to find out what is it that the recruiters and employers are looking for in students, in graduates out of university. What I'm going to show to you are the preliminary results of this study. So what would be great to know, because there are still some months to go, and what we are doing this year is just, I'm not going to get much into methodology, but what we're trying to do here is just, in this first stage, trying to understand from a qualitative perspective what are employers looking for in students, and then try to quantify and also try to measure differences between NGOs, private sector, and public sector. Are there any differences in top skills, and how can we help universities give these skills to students? And maybe we can discuss now, maybe we can discuss in the break, at lunch, or during the next days, in case you have some suggestions of what we could dig into. But the most important soft skills that HR managers are looking for in graduates are communication skills and teamwork. This is nothing new. It's in line with academic data on, for example, when there is a paper this year that shows that when analyzing 1,000 different job ads, these are among the top characteristics that the employers look for, along with IT. Interesting enough, IT does not come in these soft skills when looking for graduates. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be interesting to analyze if the perception is already there that young people do have the basic IT skills needed for a job. Then you have a couple of other factors: work experience, commitment to the company, and values and flexibility. A while ago we talked about the work experience, and one thing that I think it's worth. You can just take a quick look at it. But I think one thing that is definitely worth looking into, it's into experience. What is experience for employers? Because employers give more value to someone that is experienced doing a certain task, but does it mean this person is good at a certain task? The two things are not linked. So what is it that employers are looking for when they look into this lacking work experience? And there are questions like this that I would like to discuss with whoever is interested in this topic. There are positive things about being graduate. There are negative things that maybe universities can work together with students in order to fill these gaps by giving internships and allowing training closer to reality, exactly like employers are saying. So there is a lot of work to do. I don't think that this project is aimed at changing employers, but it's definitely aimed at changing how we prepare graduates to the labor market.
Thank you, Scott. I just realized that I had totally misrepresented what Vasco was going to talk about, but blame is squarely on him, not me. He should have informed me. All right, we don't have the fifth speaker with us, do we? I think he's just left. I'm sorry if it's anything to do on my part. We'll have questions. I will kindly ask you to state your name, your affiliation, and to whom the question is directed into. You basically followed through 4 presentations that are broadly related. Thank you. Floor is open to questions. Yes, please. Do we have a microphone?
Can you hear me there?
Yeah, I think you can hear, huh?
Yeah.
If you voice up a little bit more, microphone is coming. Yeah, now we have the microphone.
Okay, the thing is, we're trying to solve a problem related to employability.
Şunu sana. Sen içeri gidelim açalım. Evet.
English came in the middle, but we started doing English test. So I think are we actually tackling a bilingual issue, especially when we deal with the global company and the globalization? So could be involve English education in the system at early stage? From your perspective, how do you see that going on?
Maybe I have misled you. The universities that we were targeting were primarily English educating what? Yeah, English teaching universities. For the rest of the when we are going from 15,000 to 1,200. Either universities or the high schools who are educating English at a good level in Turkey, known by us. We have screening at the just preliminary stage. The second test is for how advanced they are, because in some jobs it is critical to have very fluent English, but in some jobs it's okay. So it's just for differentiating the levels. Thank you. Or even if those credits are okay, sometimes we are skeptical that the candidate is can speak good English or not. Then the test came into place.
Maybe for our guests, a little explanation is in order. In Turkey, there are a few universities, 3 public universities, Boğaziçi University and Middle East Technical University, now 4 with Abdullah Gül University, and Izmir High Technology Institute. Medium of instruction in these 4 schools, over close to 190 universities in Turkey, is English. Also, in the foundation universities, Bilkent University, Sabancı University, Koç University, and Özyeğin University are English teaching universities, and a few more. So, about 5% of universities in Turkey, the medium of instruction is in English. I believe it's similar to the Indian Institutes of Technology, something like that. But we have only 2 technology universities in that sense in Turkey, and one of them is not ITÜ, is not teaching English. The graduates from these universities are self-selected. Better students aim to be in these universities. They work harder or whatever it is that make them successful in the college entrance examinations. So they are already signaled that they have a capacity or skills to get into these universities and to graduate from these universities. This is the base that they're starting from, but they are not only hiring from this base. Without this dichotomous system in the Turkish system, sometimes it's easy to miss what the speaker takes as granted that people in the audience would know, but most of you wouldn't. Thank you. Any other questions? Please.
Hello everyone, my name is Dursun Demir. I am coming from Middle Black Sea Development Agency, Samsun, and I am happy to be here also. My question is to Mr. Aydemir. First, what do you think about the regional dimension of unemployment in general, and specifically maybe about youth unemployment. Second, a remark and maybe a general thing to raise is, you know, and we have an institution called employment institution in Turkish is İşkur. And as far as I look,
Well, thank you very much. In terms of regional dimension of youth unemployment, one fact that we know is that youth unemployment tends to be higher among lower educated individuals. And given that for example, if you go from more developed to less developed regions, the level of education goes down, the youth unemployment tends to go up as well. But Turkey is a national labor market, so people are free to move as long as there are no mobility constraints. So that tends to reduce the dimension of this problem. About İşkur, may I say a couple of things more generally, not directly addressing your question, but I wanted to touch on a different issue. When you look at the initiatives in Turkey to combat unemployment in general, or the youth unemployment in particular, there are so many different initiatives, and İşkur does a lot of work on this in terms of active labor market policies, etc. But when you read all of these different policies or interventions, you come to the idea that maybe a little bit of streamlining of these different interventions may be in order. Sometimes more than one agency, 2, 3 agencies are targeting the same population to solve the same problem. For example, labor economists, sometimes we try to evaluate these policies. What is the effect of this policy? It is very difficult in Turkey because there are so many of them that are being implemented at the same time. Yes, it is useful to have different points of view, different people looking at different dimensions, but a bit of streamlining would be especially useful. I'm going to leave your question about representation to Hakan.
Which I will fail to answer, by the way. So, thank you. Further questions, please. There and there. Well, okay. You have the advantage of closer to the microphone, please.
Hello everyone, I'm Gaia Pometto from the municipality of Cinisello Balsamo, Italy, and I would like to ask Mr. Aydemir about universities and corporations and collaboration. For sure there's a need for these two realities to work together in order to address youth unemployment. But don't you see a risk in this that this can harm the independence of universities in developing curricula and education in general?
Okay, good morning. I am Federico. I am representing Associazione Joint from Italy. We are an NGO dealing mostly with European projects, mobility for young people and non-formal education. So my question was for Mr. Castro. I was very interested in your presentation in the recognition of soft skills from in the labor market. So what kind of skills are the most requested in the labor market? And I wanted to ask if you also have some inputs on the certification. So which kind of certifications are more requested, and especially what is your perspective on the role of national institutions in dealing with such certificates? Because, for example, in Italy, there is still not a national unified certification system for vocational training. They're building it up now based on regional experiences. And so the idea is to build a national one, but sometimes it might not be matching with a European one. So there are many different issues at the stake. I wanted to ask you just some inputs on that. Thank you.
Thank you. First up to Rahman, then Vasco, please.
Okay, thank you very much. So I guess you can look at this as both a risk and also as an opportunity. Universities are there to, I think, to give useful skills to the public. And if these corporations are giving useful feedback to universities in terms of which skills are important, we can see this as an opportunity. But I see, of course, they need to filter these requests. There are certain things that we think are important for the students to learn. We don't want to give up on them. We don't want to just become vocational schools. That's not what we want. But I see a different type of risk related to this. You know, I did a lot of work on immigration. What are the determinants of immigration? What are the impacts, etc. And in the North American context, there is a very important problem. When immigrants come to these countries, they don't seem to do very well in the labor market. And these countries want to improve on this situation. What can you do? So they turn to the companies and they ask which type of occupations you think that we should be accepting these immigrants. Do you want more engineers rather than more, let's say, teachers? And there is an important risk because the companies tend to focus on the short run. They may think what they need today. They may think what they need within the next 6 months, but from a long-term perspective of the country, they may be targeting different things. I think that's an important risk. Of course, we need to hear from these companies, from these corporations, but at the same time, if the country has a long-term growth strategy, which requires certain types of skills, we need to take them into account as well. There may not be a perfect match between the growth requirements and the requirements, short-term requirements of these companies. So I think there is a trade-off. And about this previous question, if I may just say 2 sentences about this regional unemployment. I mean, I think that's more, I look at it as a more a skills issue rather than a regional issue, a skills issue. Are you giving the right skills to people at different regions? And this is very much, I mean, this is related to mobility, whether people can move once they get certain skills, but there is also a strong link to the another dimension of mobility, which is intergenerational mobility, the equality of opportunity. Do people get the right, do they get equal chances in terms of education, etc.? If I may do a little bit of advertisement, that is the topic that I am going to be talking about in the afternoon, intergenerational mobility in Turkey, and it's going to have a very specific, also regional component. There we are going to see some risks, some important issues as well.
Thank you, Abdurrahman. Vasco, please.
I just wanted actually to comment a little bit on this topic. I think it's extremely interesting. If universities working with different employers, if they become less independent, and it's a little bit on line with what's the role of universities. Our universities and maybe I can dare to say this because I have a PhD, but our university is just made to train just to train professors. Is that the ultimate goal of the full academic system? So it is a bit about rethinking what is the role of universities in the labor market and also in society. But going back to the question on the questions about employability, I think it's quite interesting. I'm going to show one thing. I think it's quite interesting. I can share with you a paper later on that came out that I referred to in my talk that came out this year that analyzed 1,000 job ads, and they the people that wrote this paper, they broke down into a series of attributes, and they rated the most important being communication, IT, organization, teamwork. And if you look at the things that HR managers are looking for in graduates, teamwork and communication skills come on top. The only thing that is different, if you compare graduates with non-graduates, as seen from this is the preliminary study. This is not yet the full study. It will only come out in the end of the year. The only big difference that you usually don't see when looking for non-graduates is this work experience, which is quite natural. It's an obvious effect, and I think it's gonna be interesting to analyze further if there are any further differences between graduates and non-graduates. But still, the characteristics that employers are looking for in job seekers doesn't massively vary, except for this work experience. They have now a bit and bridging a bit to your second question, which was about the certifications requested. There is one thing that comes up when employers think specifically about graduates, which is they are well prepared. There has been, from this preliminary study, there has been no mention to certificates by itself. It's mostly theoretical knowledge rather than certificates. There is, from my perspective, with working with employers, there has been a shift on certificates needed to rather knowledge needed. So it's knowledge they are looking for, not certificates. Of course, there is an importance on certificates. That's what I was talking about a while ago. That you do need certificates to get certain jobs. You need, as I said, this academic inflation. But I can tell you actually a personal example. This is actually my example. I did a PhD in quantum mechanics, and then I did research in cognitive psychology for a while, and now I'm working in employer branding. You gain knowledge that is not intimately related with certificates, and employers are open for this, but in some circumstances you do need certificates from, or like if you want to become a medical doctor, maybe you want to have a certificate. So we can discuss a bit further that on the certificates. And the last question was that you had was on vocational training. It's a tricky question, the vocational training. We are not here looking into in this project into vocational training. I think it would be interesting to look into. I've done some projects where we looked into vocational training for engineering companies, oil companies, and the kind of people that they are looking for. It's usually we are looking into blue collars just to do technical work with probably limited ambitions within the company. But it allows you to get a job. Don't know exactly from my personal perspective. I don't know exactly how far it allows you to go. There are exceptions, but there are limitations. But let's discuss more about this. What we can investigate further during this break.
Thank you, Vasco. I will direct the last question of the session to Yasemin. A very specific question. Suppose a student who's been following us through this panel discussion, a second-year student, an engineering student, and she is bold enough to knock on your door and guide you through her summer training and third-year, fourth-year courses about what's available to him or her. What will be your immediate advice, Yasemin?
Firstly, I will say it again, the internship is very important. and according to his or her department, specific area, what he or want is important, another point, and the term is other point. We can talk the details before and have the talk about his or her career plans, then decide to what can we do. Did I exactly answer?
Yes, and you could also use this summer internship as a means to eliminate where you're not going to work, for example?
In summer internship programs, can I...
Suppose you ended up in the banking internship and you decided that you didn't want banking at all. That's how you realized. So it's not in your career plan anymore. They do serve this purpose, right? Summer internships?
Summer internship?
It served for me, for sure.
It serves that purpose for many PhDs, right?
Yes. Basically, we decided to become academics because we knew we wouldn't be good enough for the private sector. Well, thank you, Yasemin. There are questions? One last question, we have time. 2 questions. And 2. And, oh, no. Please, 1 question and 2nd question, and we're done. Please, the same speakers will be in the workshops. Please ask them there. All right?
First of all, hi everyone, and I want to say thank you so much for ISYEC because I am here because of them. My question is, the number of people who graduate from university is rising day by day. So, how we can survive among educated people? I'm a student of economics, and I know so many students economics in Turkey, and how can I find a job when I finish my university? And the second is, isn't necessary to establish a good education policy which depend on industry demands. Thank you so much.
Canan will take this, but let's have your question as well, please. That's the last question of the plenary session.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Kayseri. I'm from Kayseri, Turkey. My question is directly going to Ms. Canan. When the students finish their school, for sure, they want to apply for big and international companies. That is really good. But also we have a belief that, if you are not finishing, if you didn't finish your school as a good grade, or if you didn't finish top university, you can not have a big chance to apply for big companies. So how we can change this situation? I mean, if you didn't do any good during the exam time for personal issues, let's say you were sick, you lost somebody in your family, and you cannot apply for international companies, I mean, they don't have any chance, like 4 or 5 top university students.
It's unfair, right?
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
She'll answer that question.
Yes, there is a reality that there are some attractive industries and big companies which are attracting a lot of graduates, and some handicaps for relatively unknown university graduates, or for certain departments. But I believe the world is changing so significantly. I'm also chairman of World Business Council for Sustainable Development, and it's an NGO, and I'm also board member of several NGOs. And other than traditional industries and the big companies, there are lots of now new industries, and like NGOs, and there are amazing people working there and transforming our world for the good, maybe in a more effective way than a regular employee in a large corporation which is doing very specialty work for so long. This is so I think we need to lean back in order to lean in, after all, and think what is the whole world is going, and what are the new skills, new industries, and the new prospective companies around. Because I'm working in a company where we have relatively low level of growth in the last 5 years. This is a 70-year-old company, a very successful Turkish conglomerate, looking for new opportunities and looking for opportunities to transform itself. And not in the regular way, as we are working with in the previous periods, most probably not with the regular or not with the people like us in the coming years. There are NGOs, there are lots of now freelance workers around, new networks. You can find Turkish Win. I know in the program you will have Melek Platkonak tomorrow. Turkish Win, MUNs, lots of networks that are helping you, inspire you to have your own business or to go to those companies with your own story that can differentiate yourself. At some point, when you are there, it's all you. It's your eagerness to learn. How positive you are, how passionate you are, how much you prepared, how much you want that job, for what, and how are you going to make it happen there. So it's all you, how you can communicate these. And of course the traineeships are there. Being bilingual, having good trainings, they're all internships, they're amazing. But at the end of the day, I think the primary function is the chemistry between you and those people that you are going to work with. And as per the motivational theory, your boss and the people surrounding you are the primary motivational factors. And so it's beyond the big industry, beyond the big company, and it turns out to be a function of you and that people. Coming to that stage is requiring something. So you need to differentiate yourself in your CV, through networks, through some connections like these organizations, etc. But then, or find your way, create your own story with your freelance work, with your social entrepreneurial project, with a project in your university that you can get a referral from your instructor or something. So I think the world is changing, and we need to understand the basics and adapt ourselves from both sides and come up with a new equilibrium, come up with new formulas of working together. And I think, self-doubt is something that you shouldn't do it at all.
On that note, that was a very good note to finish this panel with. As you see, if it's up to me, I take it from a late start and still finish on time. Bon appétit. Thank you.
Before leaving for lunch, I will take your 5 more minutes. So first of all, thank you a lot for all those great speeches, because those gave us a lot of overview about the topic, which is unemployment. And now Agü have some small gifts for you. So I invite Tuğçe with the boxes to here. Let's start from the ladies. Thanks a lot.
Hangisi?
Thank you. It's always good to be in Kayseri.
And I want to announce one more thing. I think ITouch also have something to announce. Before it, so first we will go for lunch, and our volunteers will guide you where we will go, because it will be on the next building. And after lunch, we have to meet here at 2:15, because there is a small change at the program because of the technical reasons. As you may see at the program, we have a keynote speech by Jeffrey Sachs, but it's at a web video conference. Because of the technical reasons, we will start after lunch with video conference, and after the video conference, we will start with parallel workshops. Sorry for workshop leaders, we just had to change the program a little bit, so I apologize for the team. But first we will meet here after lunch, and then after the conference, video conference, we will go for parallel workshops. So for workshops, I give the floor to ITouch.
Because Jeffrey Sachs would like to be here, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. And then he doesn't want to send only video, he wants to interactive as if he was here. So that's why we just changed the time schedule according to his availability to meet you and talk to you. That's why we had to change the program. ITouch?